And we are back. Welcome back, everybody, to this live stream. This time we are here for the qualifying session ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix, where for the third race in a row, we have got a wet weather qualifying session here at Spa-Francorchamps. And, well, it looks like normal wet conditions for the first qualifying session, but it doesn't look like for once it's changeable, so it should be a consistent wet weather for qualifying. But anyway, I am JW97, and once again, I am joined by my arch nemesis, Ra.
Yeah, hello everybody, and this will be a pretty exciting qualifying session, and let's see what will happen.
Yep, indeed. So I might as well ask you, Ra, who do you believe will be eliminated in the first part of qualifying?
Okay, I'm gonna say both Williams, both Aston Martins, a Alfa Romeo, and I'm gonna say a Haas. That's me being bold here.
Okay, I'm going to say both Williamses, both Aston Martins, and I'm going to say both Alfa Romeos. That's my guess. I'm going to say that both McLarens will actually get through into Q2 this time by. But anyway, we're about to get underway with the session. Of course, I'll remember to read your guys' as soon as one car gets out, and that's already been done with, which is Barch's Class, as the dog commentator goes off in the background again. Anyway, we'll go through Dennis's. He mentioned that this was done before he knew what the conditions would be like. So he said both Williamses, both Aston Martins, and both Alfa Romeo. So the same as me there, in fact. So that's that really. So Chris has just come up and said both Williamses, both Aston Martins, one Alfa Romeo, and one Haas. So yeah, that's that really. They're the only two I've seen so far that have done a prediction. So that's pretty much that, really. As Kloss is out on track, it'd be interesting to see if people can keep their nerve around here. Because we did see during practice, even in the driver, there were a few driver errors during that.
Yeah, there were a few driver errors, and some of them crashed out, of course, and also losing their front wings as well. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It could be pretty interesting with the mistake rate being high as well.
Yep, indeed, as 18 cars are now on track, just 4 more cars need to go out onto the track. I don't think Kloss will get any traffic by the time he starts his flying lap around here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. And given how long the track is, and given how wet it is, we might be looking at maybe 2-minute lap times around here. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe just under 2 minutes, we'll have to wait and see, of course. But yeah, that's pretty much that, really. It could make for quite an interesting session. As now coming around the campus corner now, then we will go. As for some reason, something keeps updating in you on the background of Yuvi's computer there, just as he was streaming there. But anyway, as all 22 cars are now out on the racetrack, as Kloss will now make his way around Blanchimont now then. As he will now make his way towards the last chicane on the racetrack now then, as he makes his way into the right and left-hander. So luckily for Kloss, there should be no traffic. He takes it quite cautiously into the last chicane there, does Barch's Kloss. And we might not get, we might even get a maximum of only 2 flying laps around here. So really, we'll have to wait and see really, given the length of the racetrack. Of course, it is 7.004 kilometers. This racetrack is, as Kloss now starts his first flying lap here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, as he makes his way down towards La Source in quite a tippy-toey fashion now then, as he comes out of the first part, uses a bit of curb on the outside before making his way down the hill, down the support pit straight, of course, used by the Spa 24-hour, of course, when they have so many teams, of course. That garage also gets used for that. So up towards Eau Rouge and Radion, then we go. We know that curb on the inside of Radion there can catch people out, so whether it will during this qualifying session, we'll have to see. And if anybody remembers the 2020 race with Franco Gamba when he went over that curb, you know that it can end quite dramatically. A 30.717 for Kloss in the first sector there, as it's a 30.207 for Quark, so he goes just under 5 tenths. Just over 5 tenths quicker than Kloss in that first sector. A 30.674 for De Rosa, a 30.554 for Sontag. So, in fact, he's up on Kloss. Then again, you can't really tell you much about the first sector because it is only really a straight. There's only really one heavy braking zone. So, I think sector 2 is when we'll see maybe the proper lap times. But seeing the pace that we saw from Kloss in practice, it is a little bit of an eyebrow raiser at the moment, it's fair to say. As Kloss now then makes his way around Pouhon before making his way towards La Fagna now then, of turns 12 and 13 now then, so through the right and left-hander now then. we will go as now Kloss just making his way out of the turn before making his way towards turn 14 at Campus now then. Through the right he goes as he'll now make his way towards the end of the second sector, and it's a 122.709 in that second sector. As now Kloss making his way towards Blanchimont now then, as he now makes his way through the first part and then into the second part now then. He will go. And there he goes through the second part, and now into the last chicane he will go. Just looking at the middle sectors compared to everybody else. Just looking at Sontag's middle sector, and he is down on Kloss. So Kloss was able to gain it back on Sontag in that middle sector. So yeah, pretty much confirming that first sector you can't really read too much into. So Kloss now then making his way onto the pit straight, and the Polish driver, what is the benchmark time going to be? It is going to be under the 2-minute zone, and it's a 1:55.803. Quagga across the line goes 1.5 seconds quicker on a 1:54.273. Here comes Kirishima De Rosa in the McLaren. Of course, let's not forget, we do have a soft and hard version of the normal wet tyres, so that's something to bear in mind as well, as De Rosa goes 2.9 seconds slower. Lopez went third, Byrne in second. Looks like those two got held up on their first flying lap there, as Gal goes into second place, 2 tenths off of Roman Quagga as a result, as here comes Amelia Wilson in the Alfa Romeo now then, as she comes across the line, and she goes into 7th place, made that 8th because Kupok goes into 7th. Looks like she might have got held up there by Amelia Wilson, as Perenin crossed the line to go quickest by 6 tenths of a second, at 1:53.635, as now we look at Michael Mocho, who himself goes into 2nd place, splitting the 2 Renault drivers, as now we look at Jake Galloway, who's got a yellow flag at Stavlo, I think that is, 10:15, and Valdinger has made a mistake going through into that corner there, and it was this aquaplaning, let's see.
Yep, looks like it. And luckily it avoids the wall. And that was very close between the Aston Martin and the Ferrari.
Yeah, indeed, and Vaderi as... I want to look at it from Chatfield as well. I mean, talk about close scaves there, and, well, just look how far away Valdinger was to both Vaderi and Chatfield there. That was very too close for comfort there, but thankfully, no accident was happening there. Meanwhile, Carr also getting held up by traffic on his lap as well, but he goes into 2nd place as Martin slots into 11th place. Willows only P15 with that lap. Again, some of these could be on the harder compound of the normal wet, some of them might be on the softs. They might go on the softs a little bit later on. 6th for Chung, 7th for Rote, meanwhile, in the Red Bull. Is now coming around the final chicane now then. We will go as Vaderi will make his way onto the pit straight now then. As Vaderi now then comes across the line. I don't know if his lap may have got affected a little bit because of Valdinger's spin, but he goes into 19th, 18th for Chatfield. So he's currently in the drop zone. Patel across the line. He goes into 3rd in the Lamborghini. For that, Valdinger will obviously go last because of that mistake he made coming out of Stavlo there. And as a result, goes into last. 12.1 seconds. 12.1 seconds for Jesus Perinin. But anyway, they are the first laps done with. And really, Rob, we can't really conclude anything on those first laps.
Yeah, we can't really conclude on anything at all. Carl got held up, but he managed to get 2nd, so I think there's more time to find for him. Same goes for Bird and Lopez. You could also say the same for Rogue. He also got held up by the Lamborghini of Chung.
Yep, indeed, as now they come around Blanchimont now then, as Kloss will now make his way towards the last chicane. And so into that last chicane now then we go, as Kloss will make his way back into the pit. And of course, let's not forget, some of these were on harder compound than the normal wet, so we should expect maybe better lap times. But currently in the drop zone, we have the 2 McLarens of De Rosa and Willows. Chatfield is in the drop zone as well. Looked like he was also held up at the same time by Vaderi, so it might not just be a case of tyres for Chatfield there. Griffiths in the drop zone, Vaderi in the drop zone, and of course Valdinger is also in the drop zone after he spun coming out of Stavlo there. So anyway, as the seconds tick down, and I do wonder if it's only going to be 2 flying laps or 3 flying laps we'll get around here at Spa with these wet conditions. It will be interesting to see how that one sort of fares, really. But yeah, should be quite interesting as we wait for everybody to come back in the pits. Of course, usually when the second flying laps happen, usually one driver gets left behind in the pits, and I think the people who are in the drop zone will be hoping it's not them, including Valdinger, who of course spun coming out of Stavlo. So anyway, as Kloss now gets wheeled back into the garage, Gal also in pit lane now then, as we will wait now then for the second flying laps to happen, as the seconds continue to tick down. So now we wait and see what's going to happen here. Of course, let's not forget about the new wet weather rule for anybody who is still getting used to it. Of course, we don't base it on the percentages anymore that you see from the weather radar. Instead, we base it really on how wet the track is by the end of Q1. So if it's still like this, which looking at the weather forecast, it probably more likely will be, then it will continue into Q2 as well. But of course, we will have to wait and see really how it all sort of progresses really. As Q-Pop gets Will back into the garage, he's just in the top 16 threshold. It's only Wilson really that's just right on the edge really. She's currently 2/10 quicker than the McLaren of Kirishima De Rosa. And of course, McLaren are desperate to forget what happened last time out at the Hungarian Grand Prix, where Willows was looking like he could have got points at Budapest, but obviously ended up with a suspension failure, which in turn led to Aston Martin jumping ahead of them in the Constructors' Championship. Valdinger in the pits, and he'll need a better lap next time by after that spin he made at Stavlo. But yeah, that's that really. In fact, he's having to wait for Videri to get Will back into the garage. Through back into the garage, there goes Jamie Griffiths in the Williams. As now then with just over 10 minutes to go in this qualifying session to see who will advance into the second part of qualifying. All 22 cars are now in the pit lane now then. And so far, Sontag currently in 12th place, so they could get the Williams through. As De Rosa now then in the McLaren, he's making his way back out onto the racetrack now then, as he now makes his way through La Source now then. As now he'll make his way out onto the track as he'll prepare for his second flying lap in the McLaren now then, as he makes his way down the hill before making his way towards Eau Rouge and Radion now then. So through the first part and then into the second part now then we will go, as he now makes his way onto the Camel Straight. Still the only one on track at this stage. As it looks like there is going to be some more movement, as I can see on the mini-map there, as Amelia Wilson has also just come out onto the racetrack now then, and it'd be interesting to see if any of these have switched on to the softer compound of the normal wet tyres, particularly the ones who are currently in the drop zone, Ra.
Yep, we'll see. And let's see what they can do if they do change compound tires from hard to soft. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. But of course, he will be the one left behind as well.
Yeah, indeed. As now De Rosa makes his way down through Pouon now, then the double left-hander of Pouon, as he will now make his way towards Lafagna of turns 12 and 13 on the racetrack now. Then Rosa through the right and left-hander. He will go as still Mocho, Chung, Q-Pot, Willows, Chatfield, Griffiths, Videri and Valdinger are still in pit lane as we speak. De Rosa will be hoping he doesn't get held up by any of those drivers by the time he comes back around the circuit, as he now makes his way out of Stavlo corner, which is obviously where Valdinger had his spin earlier on in this session, as now the Italian will make his way through into Blanchimont. So it looks like one driver from the drop zone is going to get left behind here. And will it be Griffiths or Valdinger? And Valdinger will be hoping it's not him, as coming back out onto the track is going to be, as I look on the mini-map, they're still in the garage at the moment. They've not moved just yet, so they'll be coming out a little bit later on, as De Rosa now then starts his second flying lap now then in the McLaren, as he now makes his way down towards La Source. Of course, he's currently in the drop zone at the moment, same for teammate Joseph Willow, so they need to get an improvement on as quick as possible now then, and it is Valdinger that's coming out, so Griffiths is going to be the one that gets left behind. He'll be hoping there's enough time left by the time he goes back out for a second flying lap. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, given how long this track is, it will be interesting to see how that one sort of plays out, really. But anyway, De Rosa onto the Camel Straight he goes now then, as he makes his way towards the end of Sector 1. And let's see what his first sector time is going to look like compared to his personal best. 1/10 up, of course, can't really judge too much on that first sector, because I've mentioned there's only really one major braking point, and that's obviously La Source. So the rest of the lap is where it's going to be critical to see if he can actually gain some time or not. But 1/10 up on his current best at the moment is De Rosa, as he now makes his way through the Bruxelles corner before making his way towards the Jackie X corner of turn 9. Used to be known as the corner with no name, of course, for many years, but eventually a few years ago was finally given a name, the Jackie X corner. As now coming down towards Pouon now, then the double left-hander. So through the first part and then into the second part, we will go now then on the racetrack as De Rosa makes his way towards turns 12 and 13 of Lafagna. Now through the right and left he will go. Of course, Very easy to make a mistake coming out the exit here, as we've seen a few times throughout the seasons. As De Rosa through into the campus corner now, then before making his way towards Stavlo, and he's 5 tenths up on his personal best, but still 2.2 seconds off of Perinen in that middle sector. So we'll see if De Rosa is able to get himself out of the drop zone at this stage as he comes around Blanchimont now, then, and now through the second part he will go before making his way towards the final chicane. He will go as the McLaren driver now makes his way into the final chicane, through into the right and then into the left-hander now. Then he will go as De Rosa now then makes his way onto the pit straight, and Kirishima De Rosa is now going to cross the line. Can he get himself out of the drop zone? And he can. He goes up into 12th position. He does improve there, so that pushes Wilson, speaking of which, we're looking at in the drop zone, but she's also up on her personal best as she now makes her way into the final chicane. Valdinger, her teammate, has just started a lap, and he needs to, because of course he had that spin earlier on. As Wilson looks like she's going to have a big improvement here across the line. She goes up into 10th position, so that now pushes Kupok into the drop zone. Galloway across the line, he will go, and he goes into 5th position. Evan Byrne across the line, and he goes into only 8th position without that. Roke is up on his personal best across the line, and he goes quickest by 9 tenths of a second, a 152.669. Perinin doesn't go back to the top and stays in second. Quag stays in 7th place. Carr doesn't improve, he stays in 3rd. Lopez on an improvement across the line, but only good enough for 11th place for the championship leader. Kloss across the line goes into 10th position at that time. Gal, meanwhile, comes out of the final chicane, currently in 8th position as the Hungarian driver makes his way across the line. Looks like one of the Lamborghinis is being held up. Gal doesn't improve. Sontag across the line he goes, no improvement for him, and he stays currently 15th. He's got a yellow flag. We've got a brief yellow flag at the campus corner there, and it's Chris Chatfield who's made a mistake this time by, and well, let's see what happened. It might be another aquaplane moment here for the Ferrari driver, and yes, it was really, but luckily he doesn't get damage, unlike what we saw with Andre Verderi in practice.
Yeah, indeed, and that has ruined this lap a lot here. And you would have improved if he didn't make that mistake, but no, he won't, and he's going to still be in the drop zone.
Chung remained 11th after that lap. Willows is up on his personal best by 2 seconds. He crosses the line, goes up into 14, pushes Martins in the drop zone. Mocho doesn't improve, he stays in 5th. Kupok goes up to 4th, so that pushes Sontag now into the drop zone. Here comes Andre Verderi across the line. He will go in the Aston Martin, and he goes up to 16, pushes De Rosa back into the drop zone as a result. As we now look at Chatfield, he was up on his personal best, as Ra pointed out, but that mistake has definitely threw that one down the toilet, as he's currently in where is he? He doesn't improve on that lap. He's currently in 20th at the moment, so he's currently in the drop zone, so that mistake might have cost him a place in Q2. Valdinger was up on his personal best of the third sector, down in the middle sector, but of course we know he is going to gain in this last sector, because this is obviously the sector where he had that mistake. So Valdinger out of the final corner. Can he get himself out of the drop zone and push Verderi back into it? Valdinger across the line, he goes in the Alfa Romeo, and he goes only 20th at that time, pushes Chatfield onto the back row of the grid, so he might be out of it as a result of that, and so could Chris Chatfield thanks to that mistake he made going through into the campus corner there.
Yeah, but if Griffiths does come out, then Chatfield could be in trouble and could start last, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Griffiths, if he gets out in time, that is. He is currently in last position, is Griffiths, 5.2 seconds off of Roke. He might have been on the harder compound of the normal wets, but we'll have to, of course, wait and see on that one as De Rosa gets wheeled back into the garage. He might be out of qualifying as well, but we'll have to wait and see. And now we wait and see if Griffiths is going to get out there for a final flying lap or not, as Wilson now then will get wheeled back into the garage in the Alfa Romeo. And now Wilson gets wheeled back into the garage now then, as now Wilson will, so currently 14th, looks like she'll be progressing into the second part of qualifying, but we'll have to wait and see on that one, of course, as we have just under just over 3 minutes to go in Q1. Kloss is now back in the garage as a result, as is the AlphaTauri of Miklos Gal, as now we will wait and see what on earth will happen. Will Griffiths get out there before the session comes to an end, or will he just stay in the garage and accept last place on the grid? Of course, we should remind you as well, of course, whilst we wait for the next runners to come out, of course, Laura Chung does have a 5-place grid penalty for this race, so wherever she ends up in this qualifying session, Chung will drop 5 places back, of course. Currently, she's progressing into Q2, so that grid penalty won't come into an effect just yet, as now we wait for the next part, see if Griffiths does come out or not, as now Q-Pock is back in the garage. Looks like both Albert Towers have made it through in 4th and 9th, so they'll be pretty satisfied with that one, of course, as we wait to see if we do see a Williams go out on the track or not. They have still got just over 2.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session. So now we will wait and see. Q-Pock now then getting wheeled back into the garage now then in the AlphaTauri. As Valding, I think he will be out because he's still out there on the track at the moment, is the Hungarian. So I think Valdinger's session is done. We've only really got one proper lap in as a result of that. But yeah, Q-Pop back in the garage now then. So the seconds continue to tick down. They need to get out before the 1 minute 52 mark. Otherwise, that's their chance of qualifying done with. As I think there might have been some movement. It was for Amelia Wilson. So Wilson is going out there, but will Griffiths also go out there on the track as well? Wilson now then coming out onto the racetrack, and she will get one more flying lap in before the session comes to a close, you would imagine. 57, 56, 55, 54, 53, 52. There is some movement I can see there at La Source. 51, 50. So whoever that is, I think they might have just missed it, in fact, because they're not out on the track just yet. So I think it might just be Wilson. It's DeRosa. So Griffiths will be starting in last. He only really had one flying lap. So I think as a result, we've got our bottom 6. I think DeRosa didn't get out in time, which is DeRosa, Sontag, Martins, Valdinger, Chatfield, and Griffiths. So Chatfield's got it all to do from the back tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's pretty disappointing, unfortunately for him. And that mistake on his on that second run has cost him. And of course, traffic with Federi didn't help on his first run, so it was pretty much a messy qualifying session for Chatfield.
Yeah, indeed, as Wilson makes her way down towards Pouon now then, and through the double left-hander now then they will go, as she will go, sorry, as now as she makes her way towards Lafania now then of turns 12 and 13. So we have just under a minute left. She will get one more lap in, of course, because she came out just before the 1 minute 52 mark, of course. But she's already through anyway, so it's not like she needs to do another lap in this session. But I think she's just trying to see if she can maybe improve on a lap time or not. But anyway, as the track is still wet, so expect these conditions to still be a thing when we get into Q2, of course, as the American driver makes her way through Blanchimont now then, before making her way into the last chicane now. Then she will go on the racetrack, and now into the last chicane, through into the right and left-hander now then she will go, as now she will make her way onto the pit straight, as Wilson will now come across the line, and as she now starts her final flying lap of Q1. I don't think anybody else is going to do it, although they are at the chicane, or those two on the mini-map, so we'll have to wait and see if they make it across the line or not. I highly doubt it, but we'll say 3, 2, 1, and 0, and yeah, they're not going to be able to do a lap. So it's only Wilson that's going to get one more flying lap in Q1 before we get into the second part of qualifying now then, as the American driver makes her way through Eau Rouge and then into Radion now then she will go, making her way onto the Kemmel Straight before approaching the Com. As let's see what a first sector time is like compared to a personal best. Anyway, she approaches the end of the first sector, and she is 2 tenths down on that personal best of the first sector. 5 tenths off a Roke in the first sector. Meanwhile, as Wilson makes her way through Lacombe, as now through towards Bruxelles, and of course the Jackie X corner. So through Bruxelles, and now in towards the Jackie X corner we will soon approach now then. So through turn 9 on the racetrack, heading down the hill towards Pouon, as she'll look to try and see if she can gain some time in that middle sector now then. So through the first part of Pouon and then into the second part we will go, as now Wilson makes her way towards Lafania now then, as she approaches that corner at around 260 plus, as now through the right and left hander she goes before making her way towards Campus and Stavlo. Now then, is she able to gain some time back in the middle sector or not? I highly doubt it, let's say. And no, she's going to be way off, in fact, nearly a second off her personal best in that middle sector there, as she will now come towards the final few corners on the racetrack, heading towards Blanchimont. So through the first part she goes of Blanchimont, then into the second part she will go, a little bit more tighter than the first one, of course, as now heading into the final chicane will go Amelia Wilson in the Alfa Romeo now, then taking it nice and easily through the final chicane through the first part, then into the second part she will go, as now out of the final chicane and onto the pit straight now, then will go Amelia Wilson in the Alfa Romeo, as she will now cross the line, and she is not going to improve, but she's through anyway, and that is Q1 done with Roke top, Perrin in second, and Carr in third position, and your bottom six as a result. Let's just quickly remind you of that very, very quickly. Here is your bottom six now then. They are Kirishima De Rosa, Felix Sontag, Joantas Martins, Bence Valdinger, Chris Chatfield, and Jamie Griffiths. So I'm just going to give myself a brief pause for a moment while Shiri sorts Q2 out, and also sorts out the as I also sort out the tweet for Twitter. But in the meantime, guys, let us know your prediction on who you believe will be eliminated in the second part of qualifying, as I'm now going to mute myself to get the tweet prepared for Twitter. So apologies if I go silent for a little bit. Okay, I am back. I think there's still music running in the background, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how it's going to work during these intermissions when we've got qualifying, of course. But yeah, Q1 is going to be was a very interesting qualifying, and of course, in the end, we ended up seeing, of course, Chris Chatfield being eliminated thanks to that spin. And as mentioned, Ra, he's got a lot of work to do in the race tomorrow.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do. It won't be easy, but I think overtaking here is a bit easier compared to Hungary. So I think he could do a good job, but it depends on how quick he is.
Yeah, indeed, and of course, obviously he's on the inside line, which is not exactly the best line to be in at the start, and he also might witness a bit of chaos in the first corner, depending on the weather, of course, for tomorrow's Belgium Grand Prix. But of course, we'll have to wait and see on that one, of course. But yeah, it's a very interesting session indeed, and of course, it looks like we're also going to get these similar conditions going into Q2 as well. So who knows, really? Could we have perhaps maybe another surprise in Q2, Ra?
Yeah, I think there is a chance we could have another surprise in Q2. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. Anything can happen.
Yeah, indeed, and as Chris pointing out in the stream chat, I mean, he took pole position last season here, did Chris Chatfield, but now he's going to be starting on the back row of the grid in 2022. So basically the polar opposite of what he had last season, and it kind of shows how much backwards Ferrari have been in 2022 and. Compared to 2021, of course, and given that they've got a downward trend for 2023, how much downward that is, we don't know. Who knows really what happens with Ferrari next season?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the downward trend they had this season wasn't that bad, but it's cost them a chance to fight for victories more than usual. So, yeah, you can see the effect this season, but I think they could have a big effect next season as well.
We'll have to see, of course, but that's obviously for the future. We're currently in the present as we're waiting for Q2 to get underway here in qualifying, as we're about to get underway right now then. Perfect timing there. And as you can see, we're going to have extreme wet weather this time by, as you can see with the weather icon. I don't think we'll get to the changeable bit because as you can see, it's plus 30 when that changeable bit happens. But again, it could really depend on how wet the track is by the end of the session. But it looks like everyone will be on the extreme wet tyres for Q2. So I think without further ado, let's get into the second part of qualifying then for this session once Yuri sorts out what he needs to sort out, of course. So anyway, as we wait for the second part of qualifying to get underway right now then. So I might as well ask you, Ra, who do you believe will be eliminated in Q2?
I'm gonna say Wilson, Willows, else Federi made it through, right? I'm pretty sure he did. So I'm gonna
Vaderi did make it into Q2.
yeah, Federi. I'm gonna say a Haas, an AlphaTauri, and a Lamborghini.
I'm going to say Willows and the McLaren will get eliminated. Vaderi will get eliminated in the Aston Martin. I think Wilson will get eliminated as well. I think I'm going to say Galloway will get eliminated as well in the Ferrari. I'm going to take a stab in the dark on that one. I'm also going to say a Lamborghini will get eliminated, and I'm also going to say an AlphaTauri will get eliminated. That's what I think. So that's that for me. As now we get set for the second part of qualifying. As you can see, everybody now on the extreme wet tyres, the grey wall tyres, as you can see there. As now. Just looking to see if anybody actually put any predictions in the stream chat, and I don't think anybody did. So, yeah, that's that really. So, as you can see, in fact, despite the fact there's extreme wet weather conditions, the sky is actually quite bright around the track. So, very interesting conditions here for Q2. Even though the wet weather is quite heavy, the rain seems to be non-existent.
Yeah, it seems like that. But if we do see the rain, then don't think we might see that many improvements. But yeah, this is pretty interesting so far.
Yeah, indeed. As we ride on board with Barch's Kloss in the Haas now, then as he makes his way towards Lecom, as now he will be preparing for a lap. He's the first one out on track at this stage. As now we look at Franco, as we've got Franco Lopez, Michael Mocho, Jake Galloway, Joseph Willows, George Rope, Miklos Gal, Andre Vaderi, and Laura Chong also on the racetrack. Still make that 6 more cars now need to come out on the track as the 10th car has just emerged. As the Polish driver now then makes his way towards the formerly known as the corner with no name, but now known as the Jackie X corner. As now heading in towards Pouon now, then the double left-hander. You can see the sky is quite bright out there on the racetrack. So even though it said extreme wet weather on the conditions there, who knows really? Maybe, just maybe, we could end up potentially having maybe drying conditions towards the end of it. Who knows? But anyways, Kloss now then makes his way through turns 12 and 13, which is Lafagna now then. He's also got a Lamborghini right behind him at the moment. That being, of course, in fact, who could that be? It's one of the two. At the moment, as my screen is deciding to freeze on me there. Well done, Discord. The screen decided to freeze on me there for a moment. But anyway, as now Kloss makes his way through into turn 15 there, as he now will make his way towards Blanchimont. As now through the first part of Blanchimont now, then will go Barches Kloss, and then into the second part he will go, as he will now make his way towards the final chicane on the racetrack now then, as Kloss will now make his way towards the right and left-hander now then, as he prepares to start his first flying lap of queue number 2, using a lot of curb on the inside and then through into the left-hander. He will now go, as Kloss will now make his way onto the pit straight now then, as Kloss is now going to start his first flying lap of queue number 2. And of course didn't have the best of practice sessions, did Bartosz Kloss, being down all the way down in 19th position. But let's see what Kloss can do on this occasion now then, as Kloss makes his way in towards La Source now then, so through the right-hander he will go, as now heading out of turn 1 and then heading down the hill towards the support pit straight, which is often used by WEC, of course, as now Kloss will make his way down towards Radion and Eau Rouge and Radion. I get those two mixed up, of course, which way they are supposed to be. Up towards Radion now then will go Bartosz Kloss in the Haas, as he now makes his way down the Camel Straight, as now let's see what his first sector time is going to look like there, as now Bartosz Kloss makes his way towards the end of sector 1, a 30.889 in the first sector there for Bartosz, as he now makes his way through Lacombe and now through into the right-hander now then will go Bartosz Kloss in the Haas now then, as he now makes his way towards Bruxelles and then the Jackie X corner. Just looking at everybody else's first sector there, 30.450 for Lopez in that first sector, a 30.784 for Galloway, a 30.352 for Rogue, a 30.604 for Gal, 31.1 for Videri, not the best first sector for him, and a 30.872 for Laura Chung after that first sector there. As Kloss now then down towards Pouon now then, the first part, turn 10, and then around turn 11 goes the Polish driver, as he'll now approach Lafania now then, as he approaches that corner at around, it said 310 kilometers an hour before he had to go onto the brakes. And I do expect, because we are now on extreme wet weather tyres, we might expect lap times being in the 2-minute zone, but we'll have to wait and see on that. As now coming around Campus now then, and now into Stavelo, 127.832 in the middle sector there for the Polish driver, as he now makes his way towards Blanchimont now then, and now heading towards that first part of Blanchimont. He will go very soon, so through the first part, and in fact I think, was he being attacked there? Because that was a little bit of a weird line there through into that corner. I wonder if the Lamborghini is giving him a little bit of bother, that being Laura Chung. So maybe Kloss's lap getting a little bit impacted there through into the first part of Blanchimont. Chung trying to go on the inside into the chicane there, so already both of them compromising each other's laps there going into the chicane. As now Bartosz Kloss makes his way onto the pit straight now then in the Haas, as he goes onto the pit straight. And what is the lap time going to prove? We are past the 2-minute mark as a result, and it's a 2-minute free, as Chung goes quicker by a tenth, but now make that second, because Lopez is 3.2 seconds quicker. For Derry only second place. Chung and Kloss holding each other up has really cost them there on that lap, as we now look at Jake Galloway onto the straight now then, as Galloway now then will come across the line in the Ferrari, and he goes into second place. P2 for Gal, meanwhile, as Roke goes quickest, he breaks out of the 2-minute zone and does a 1:59.105, as we now look at Joseph Willows coming out of the last chicane in the McLaren now. Then he makes his way onto the pit straight, and Willows will now come across the line. Doesn't look to be a very good lap here for Joseph Willows. I don't know if he's made a mistake at all, but it's a 2-minute free for Willows, a 2-minute free also for Macho, so those two have not had very good times there. As now Q-Pop crosses the line, he goes into third position. Here comes Armar Carr in the Mercedes now then. He's 1.3 seconds off of Roke in that middle sector there, as the Mercedes driver comes out of the final corner and onto the pit straight now. Then he will go, as Armar Carr will now come across the line, and he goes into fourth position. Fifth for Byrne. Looks like, in fact, those two may have been holding each other up on their laps there. Potential future teammates. Who knows, really, if Carr beats Roke to that second Red Bull seat. As we now look at Emilia Wilson, goes into 8th place. P7 for Quagga. Looks like he got held up by Wilson there. Perinen across the line. He will go in the Renault now then, as the Spaniard crosses the line, and he goes into 7th place. Patel goes only 16th for that. I don't know if he made a mistake or not.
Yeah,
way off in the first sector. He might have made a mistake in sector 1. We'll have to wait and see. If anything, could be down at Eau Rouge and Radion. Let's see. Or it could be because of Perinin here. And no, in fact, it was a mistake he made. And it was, well, just a typical corner, really.
Yep, luckily he caught it. And no collision there between him and Perinin. But yeah, that was not ideal. Not an ideal mistake for Patel to make. But yeah, he's down in 16th. Pretty much lost a lot of time there. So maybe he could have been in the top 10. Could have been where Perinin was. But yeah, that mistake might have cost him here.
But yeah, and as a result, both Lamborghinis currently in the drop zone. All 16 drivers finishing off a lap.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that. I just got a little bit of an interruption there. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Both Lamborghinis in the drop zone at the moment. So if it were to stay like this, Chung would actually start down in 18th position on the grid, because let's not forget she does have that 5th-place grid penalty that she got from the Hungarian Grand Prix. So it's obviously something to bear in mind there.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, she'll have a lot of work to do. Same for Patel if it stays like this. So Patel needs to get a clean lap in, and hopefully that's better than that first lap.
Actually, quite a lot of traffic behind Kloss, in fact. It's not just Chung, as you can see in the mirrors. It looks like also a Mercedes has caught up to it, that being Franco Lopez, who's currently 2nd place and 9/10 off of George Roque here. But yeah, there's Kloss now then making his way into pit lane now then. As now Kloss will pull into his garage now then. And so he's currently 14th, so he needs to do a better job. Of course, not just both Lamborghinis, but also both Hasses are currently in the drop zone right now as we speak. As he now pulls into his box there. As Kloss will soon be heading his way. As now we wait and see what... as we wait for the second flying laps to happen, of course, as there is the AlphaTauri of Miklos Gal now then. So a few more cars need to come back in the pit lane at this stage. But all of them are on the extreme wet tyres, because even though the rain was quite not visible there, the track was still very, very wet out there. So we'll wait and see if that's still going to be the case when we get into Q3 a little bit later on, as Gal now gets wheeled back into the garage now then, as we wait now then for Gal. He's currently in 6th place at the moment. He's Miklos Gal. Teammate David Kupok up in 3rd. So once again, the AlphaTauri is putting on a good show during this qualifying session. As we wait now to see what's going to happen for the remainder of the session. As now Patel is now back in the pit lane. Bartosz Kloss is waiting to go out as soon as possible. As both the Red Bulls are currently in their garages. Only Byrne now just getting wheeled back into the garage as we speak. As we have just under 7 minutes to go now then. As we wait now then to see who's going to blink first on the second flying laps of Q2. So we have just under 7 minutes to go in this qualifying session here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Stavelot. As now it looks like the mechanics are getting ready to send Gal out onto the racetrack. I just about saw that in the mirror there. But is anybody going to beat him to the punch before he has a chance to get out onto the racetrack? Of course, Kloss was first on track earlier on. Is this going to be the same case, or is Gal going to get out there first? Gal is actually going to get out there first of all. So, yeah, that's that really. Gal now making his way out onto the racetrack now then in the AlphaTauri, as he now goes around La Source. And now he will start his next flying lap now then, as he makes his way down the hill before heading towards Eau Rouge and Radion pretty soon on the racetrack. As now you can see the spray still intensifying out of the back of the cars at this point in time. Through Eau Rouge and Radion now then we will go. As now Gal makes his way onto the Camel Straight. As in fact, there's actually a few cars now out on the track. We have Lopez out there. We have Galloway who's out there. And so Videri as well. Mocho also out there as well. Kloss only just now coming out onto the racetrack after a pretty poor first lap for him. Although then again, that was sort of compromised by Laura Chung, as those two were holding each other up on their first flying lap there. As Gal now makes his way through into turn 8 before making his way into the Jackie X corner now then, as we have just over 5.5 minutes to go in Q2, and then we'll see who's going to advance into the final part of qualifying now then, as Gal makes his way down towards Pouon now then, so through into the first part and now into the second part now then he will go, as he's 1.8 seconds off of George Roque at this stage, as now Gal makes his way into Lafagna now then, so through turns 12 and 13 go the Hungarian now then, as he flicks it through the left-hander now then, as now Gal makes his way in towards the right-hander now then, and then into turn 13 he will go, as Gal will now make his way towards Blanchimont, as now Gal will make his way through the first part of Blanchimont and then into the second part. He will soon go before he starts his second flying lap. Wilson's still in the gouge at the moment, and she's currently in the top 10 at the moment, is Wilson. So she could actually, if circumstances go her way, maybe go through into the final part of qualifying. But of course, I do maybe expect better lap times, especially those who were getting held up, of course, on those previous laps. As now, we will wait and see. As now coming towards the first corner now, then we'll go Miklos Gal in the Alpha Tauris. He makes his way into the first corner as now Miklos Gal makes his way down towards Eau Rouge and Radion now then on the racetrack. As now we go through Eau Rouge and then up towards Radion now then we'll go Miklos Gal in the Alpha Tauris. He makes his way onto the Camel Straight before making his way towards Lecom. He will soon approach. And let's see what his first sector is like. And he is way off in the first sector by 1.1 seconds. So I didn't see a mistake there from Gal in that first sector. But a little bit strange that he's 1.1 seconds off his personal best there, Ra.
Yeah, could the track conditions might have gone worse? It could be that, but we'll see. It looks like Lopez is down as well. Same for Galloway. Let's look at Federi.
He's down as well. He's down as well in that first sector. So a few drivers are actually down on their personal best. As now we look at Gal now. Then he makes his way down towards Pouon now. Then so through the first part and then into the second part now. Then he will go before he makes his way towards Lafagna, which is turns 12 and 13. As you can see, the spray continuing to kick out the back of the AlphaTauri there through turn 12 and 13. Now then he will go. As he will now approach turns 14 and 15 on the racetrack now. Then, so through the right-hander, he will go and approaching the end of the second sector. And he's still 1.5 seconds off his personal best at the moment. And yeah, so I'm not looking at an improvement here for the Hungarian as he now makes his way in towards Blanchimont. So through the first part and then into the second part now, then he will go. As now Gal makes his way into the final chicane. As these are probably going to be the final flying laps, as you can see with the amount of time that's left on the clock. So Gal now then through the right and then into the left-hander now then he will go as Gal comes onto the pit straight now then, and Miklos Gal is now going to cross the line. As he crosses the line and he does not improve, he stays where he is. Franco Lopez now then through into the final turn and onto the pit straight now then will go the Mercedes driver as Lopez now then crosses the line in the Mercedes and he does not improve. He stays where he is. Galloway across the line and he doesn't improve either. Verderi now then onto the straight is currently holding up one of the Haas cars. Verderi across the line and he doesn't improve as Mocho does improve but only into 12th position. So he's out in fact because there's not much time left. But Kloss only 13th, so both Haasers out in Q2. No improvement there for David Kupok. He stays in 3rd position. Here comes Laura Chung in the Lamborghini now then as she will now come across the line and she is not going to improve. George Roque in the Red Bull comes across the line as he looks like he's going to stay at the top of the timing sheets and he will. He stays where he is at this stage. Roman Quag comes across the line and he doesn't improve, stays where he is. Joseph Willows in the McLaren making his way onto the pit straight and I don't think he's going to improve here. It looks like he's also going to get eliminated down in 15th position and yep, Willows is out. Carr across the line, he stays in 4th position. Evan Burney's up on his personal best meanwhile. He's now going to cross the line and goes into 3rd position, gets himself in front of David Kupok. Patel up on his personal best by 3 seconds in fact, or 2.6 because he actually lost a little bit in the middle sector, but it looks like he's on improvement. Will it be enough to actually push Wilson outside and prevent her from making a Q3 appearance? Let's see. Patel across the line and he goes into 9th, pushes Wilson into the drop zone as a result. Hayes Perinin across the line, he will go and he doesn't improve, he stays in 7th place. Here comes Amelia Wilson who's down on her personal best. Wilson across the line, she will go and she doesn't improve, she stays in 11th place and I think that's going to be it because Gal is coming back into the pits. I think that's everybody done with, isn't it, if I am not mistaken? Yep. So as a result it means that well, Wilson, Verderi, Mocho, Kloss, Chung and Willows is out. So Chung will start in 20th thanks to her 5th place grid penalty. So she's also got a lot of work to do in tomorrow's race. But yeah, gutting for Wilson really. So close to Q3, but right at the end there, Patel prevented her from getting there.
Yeah, that mistake could have been costly for Patel. It didn't. He managed to recover well. Of course, he did lose time in the middle sector and lost a little bit more in the final sector, but it was enough for him to get into Q3. So good job for him. but he's got to hope that he doesn't make more mistakes like that.
Indeed, but the session is now over, and we're now going to see. So, Roque, Lopez, and Byrne is your top three. And to remind you of your bottom six are Wilson, Videri, Mocho, Kloss, Chung, and Willows. Chung, of course, will start in 20th due to her 5-place grid penalty. So, we're just going to take a brief pause for the moment while Jiri gets prepared for the final part of qualifying. It will be interesting to see what the weather is like for Q3 as well. But in the meantime, guys, let us know your prediction on who you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's Belgian Grand Prix. But in the meantime, I'm going to mute myself and get the tweet prepared for Twitter, so apologies if I go silent for a little bit. The tweet is now up on Twitter, and so yeah, it should make for a very interesting session. But so far, Roque has looked pretty quick in both wet sessions so far, and he even looked quick in practice. So could he make it a? Could he dominate the entire sessions here, Ra?
Could be, but of course, knowing Spa, being on pole is not the way to go. Going into turn one, you're gonna lose first position easily.
Yeah, indeed, but whether he can or not remains to be seen. And of course, let's not forget with Spa-Francorchamps as well, usually starting on pole position is not the best place to be because you've got a very high chance of being jumped into the first corner, but of course you do have a very good chance of getting the lead back at Le Com, of course. So even if you do lose it at the first corner, you could get it back later on. But anyway, we're about to get underway for Q3, and it looks like we're back to normal wet weather conditions. Could be changeable though, because we might end up maybe getting some drier conditions towards the end of it, but we'll wait and see. It might be a little bit tight with that one, but who knows. But we'll get about to get on the way for the final part of qualifying, and I might as well ask you, Ra, who do you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's Belgian Grand Prix?
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say George Roque.
I'm also going to play it safe and say George Roque as well for pole position, but I think every time we played it safe, it ends up going in the opposite direction. So, who knows really? As I think Yuri has forgotten to put the right cars in, it seems. I think he might have jumped the gun a little bit there. So bear with, guys, as Yuri sorts that one out, as he forgot to put all the cars out of qualifying, really. As just to bear with for the moment. as he now tries to remember who is out of qualifying. Just bear with a little bit of an error there from Yuri, but it should be underway quite soon. As you forgot Chung there, Yuri. Chung's out of qualifying as well. That's that really, and I think that's everybody. Yes, I can see the screen as well, so at least I could help you there on that regard. So anyway, yeah, indeed. So okay, so just bear with guys whilst gets the weather forecast sorted out and try and gets the similar weather to what you saw there before he makes he made that error there. But so far Roka's looked pretty strong in all the sessions so far, but whether it will stay like that, we'll have to wait and see, of course. But so far you wouldn't be blamed if you went for him to go for the pole position. So that's pretty much that really. And so we will now wait for Yuri to sort out the weather, and then we will get straight underway with the qualifying session to see who will take pole position for tomorrow's Belgian Grand Prix here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Stavelot. So that's pretty much that really. As we will wait to see who is going to be that person to do it, of course. Just bear with, guys, and we will get this session underway quite soon. But it should be interesting. Of course, as mentioned, Roke has been quick in all of them, but could anybody actually stop him from possibly getting a back-to-back pole position today? Of course, he took pole last week, of course, at the Hungarian Grand Prix, but was not able to convert it into the victory, of course. But could that be different this time by? Who knows, really? As we wait for the session to get underway, as we now wait and see. As obviously Yuri's trying to get the correct weather, of course, before starting the session, so it might take a little bit, but just bear with for the time being. So that's that really. And hopefully he remembers as well about the if he's having to restart the game on a few occasions. I hope he remembers to actually make sure that not all 22 cars are out on the racetrack. So that would not be a very good sign indeed. But that's pretty much that. Yep. As just bear with for the moment. Okay, so I think Yuri has got the correct weather, so now we can get back underway for qualifying, and it is extreme wet weather this time by, but I don't think that's going to... Oh, okay, fair enough. Okay, so it won't be changeable for dry conditions then. So let's this time get underway with qualifying. So take two, essentially, and hopefully by tomorrow Yuri will sort out this loading screen as well while we're at it. But that's pretty much that. Because it's not September anymore. We're in April now. So obviously enough, as the next oddly enough, for anybody wondering, the next day after that race happened, that was when my Mac sadly died. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen this time by. But so far the everything, because basically everything just got replaced here on the computer. So everything should be okay for a long time now. So. That's that really. But anyway, we're about to get underway for qualifying. Everybody on the extreme wet tyres, just as they were in Q2. So now we get underway for this, as we'll read your guys' predictions once somebody goes out on the track. As Q-Pop now then making his way onto the racetrack. As now Q-Pop getting ready to go. As now he will make his way onto the track, and I think he's the first one to go out first, and he will be indeed. So nobody beats him this time by, as now he makes his way out of pit lane. So let's read your guys' predictions then. So let's have a look then. So Rob has said Rahul Patel will get pole position. He's going quite bold, and Roke has said Miklos Gal for pole position. So we'll have to wait and see who gets that one right, really. But anyway, it's Q-Poc and Burner now both out onto the racetrack, and it is pretty much the same conditions to what we saw in Q2, really. Even though this extreme on the track, we've still got the bright sky. So, Yeah, the weather here in Spa today, Rod, definitely being weird.
Yeah, indeed. If it is weird in the race, it could be a chaotic race.
Who knows, really, as Q-Puck now then comes out of Lecom, as there's now 7 cars out on the racetrack. Just 3 more cars need to get out there. Q-Puck shouldn't get any traffic, but you never know, of course. You never know what GP4 can be like, as now Q-Puck makes his way towards the Jackie X corner now then of turn 9. As now Q-Puck will make his way down towards Piwon now then, as we are still yet to have 2 cars on the racetrack. So through turn 10 and then into turn 11 goes the German. Just one more car needing to go out. Just trying to keep an eye on the mini-map. I think they're about to come out now then. And looks like they are. Yes, they are. So all 10 cars are out on the track. So luckily for Q-Puck, he's not going to have any traffic problems whatsoever. As now Q-Puck makes his way into the campus corner now then, before making his way into Stavlo. As now through into turn 15 we go on the racetrack before making our way into Blanchimont. As Q-Puck will soon starting his lap quite soon in the Alpha Tauri. I said soon twice there in that one sentence, but anyway, as now the German driver will make his way towards Lushkin. Of course, Q-Puck does have good memories of the wet conditions in qualifying. Remember the 2019 Australian Grand Prix in his first ever race, where he managed to get 3rd position on the grid. A pretty big achievement there for the German driver. But Q-Puck now then out of the final turn and onto the pit straight now then. He will go, as Q-Puck is now about to start his first flying lap of Q3 now then, as he crosses the line to start it now, as he makes his way down towards the first corner on the racetrack now then, and it looks like he's tippy-toeing his way into that first corner there, trying to keep it as cautious as possible. Doesn't want to aquaplane off into the first corner, otherwise that will be a complete disaster for the German driver. And now heading our way down the hill, down the support pit straight now then, before Q-Puck makes his way towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Let's see if he's able to keep it on the track, which he does. Of course, let's not forgetting Q2 as well, or Q3, I think it was Q2. Yeah, Patel made a mistake on that first flying lap at that corner, so it's always there to catch you out, that is for sure. Q-Puck's first sector is a 31.574 in the first sector as he goes around Lecom. Let's see what everybody else's first sectors look like. A 31.460, I think that says, for Byrne, so he's only just quicker than Q-Puck in the first sector there, as Q-Puck makes his way into the Bruxelles corner. A 31.237 for Roke, or is that 137 in fact? Either way, he's up on both of them in the first sector. A 31.204 for Perinen, as so he's just a little bit down on Roke in that first sector. 31.916 for Quark. Sometimes it's quite hard to read the numbers on that graphic on the top left, but anyway, as now Q-Puck makes his way towards turns 12 and 13 now, then he goes a Lafagna, so through the right and left-hander now, then he will go, as the German driver flicks it through these section of corners now then, and now making his way towards turns 14 and 15 on the racetrack now then, so through the right and then into turn 15 he will go, as he does a 127.348 in that middle sector, as now Q-Puck now then making his way towards Blanchimont. Now let's see what Q-Puck can do now then, as he will obviously set the benchmark of time for everybody to beat. And now Q-Puck making his way into the final chicane now then on the racetrack, as the German driver breaks it into the final chicane now, then flicks it in through the right and then into the left will go David Q-Puck now then out of the final turn and onto the pitch straight. And what is the benchmark of time going to be? It looks like it might be in the 2-minute zone here for David Q-Puck, as he now makes his way onto the pit straight and across the line he will go, and it is a 2-minute 1.727. Here comes Evan Byrne in the Red Bull. He's up on Q-Puck. He's now going to cross the line, and he goes 9/10 quicker and goes to the top. But Roker's also looked pretty quick, 1.6 seconds up on teammate Byrne. He has found a lot of grip around this track, whereas his teammate hasn't. George Roke now, then across the line he will go in the Red Bull. He now crosses the line and he goes 1.9 seconds quicker, or 158.779. He has been on fire in these conditions today, has George Roke. Jesus Perinen across the line, he goes into second place, 1.1 seconds off of George Roke in the end. Here comes Roman Quarg, who's 3 seconds off of Roke in that middle sector. I wonder if he made a mistake, because he was only 7/10 down in that first sector. I don't see how you can lose 3 seconds in one sector, but either way, he's 4.2 seconds down in 5th. Patel goes 5th. He's also 4 seconds off the pace. Here comes Amar Khan across the line, and he goes into 5th position, 3.6 seconds off of George Roke. Meanwhile, Lopez, 4/10 off of Roke in the middle sector. He could get himself onto the front row here, as Lopez now makes his way onto the pit straight, as the future Toyota driver now comes across the line in the Mercedes, and he goes into second place, 6/10 off. Here comes Mikolas Gal in the AlphaTauri, 2.2 seconds off of Roke overall in that middle sector, as now the Hungarian makes his way out of the final turn. Looks like he had a little bit of oversteer there coming off the exit, as now Gal across the line, he will go, and he goes into 5th position, gets in front of teammate Q Park. Jake Galloway in the Ferrari makes his way into the last chicane, 3 seconds off. They seem to be losing a lot of time in that middle sector compared to George Rowe. It's a little bit bizarre, that one is, as now Galloway makes his way onto the pit straight, and across the line will go the Ferrari driver. He makes his way across the line now then, and he goes into 10th position. So yeah, some very interesting lap times there, but seems a lot of drivers seem to be losing time in that middle sector, whereas Rogue just seems to find time.
Yeah, it seems like that, but it could change in second round and will potentially be the final runs of qualifying. So the final runs will decide everything.
Or if we're going to judge on what happened in the first part of in the previous qualifying session, then maybe indeed Roke's still going up on his personal best, as my door decides to automatically open there. Let me close it. There we go. My door has this issue really where it just likes to open by itself for some reason, like a ghost is in the house or something like that. But anyway, as now Q-Pot now then making his way into the pits now then. As currently the 2 Alpha Tauris are currently looking at the 3rd row, but if anything to go by, like Ra said earlier on, there might only be one more flying lap for these guys. We'll have to wait and see, really, as the German driver makes his way back into the pits now then. As now we'll wait and see who's going to go out there next up. I did notice when they were coming back into the pits there, Periden was not too far off Roke's time in the middle sector. So, yeah, a bit bizarre, really, those first flying laps there.
Yeah, a bit bizarre, but I think it could all change, of course, but we'll see. I mean, anyone could get pole, but we'll have to wait and see.
Indeed so, as Q-Pot now then gets wheeled back into the garage, as it's only really Galloway and Lopez who are currently out there on the racetrack, but they'll soon be back in the pits soon. But yeah, at the moment, Roke at the top with Lopez in 2nd, Perinen in 3rd, Byrne in 4th, Gal 5th, Q-Pok in 6th, it's Car 7th, Patel in 8th, Quag in 9th, and Galloway rounding at the top 10 at this stage of qualifying, as we now wait for the next runs to happen now then, as Galloway makes his way through Blanchimont, as now Patel will get wheeled back into the garage now then in the Lamborghini, as he currently lies in 8th position, as he'll look to see if he can try and find those 4.1 seconds that were mysteriously lost by most of the drivers in that middle sector. And it wasn't like they were making mistakes. Maybe they were just struggling a little bit in that middle sector compared to what George Roke and to an extent Franco Lopez was, because he's the only one under a second behind George Roke at the moment, 6 tenths behind to be exact. He's got his rival Evan Byrne a row behind him at the moment, with Perinen splitting the 2 of them at this stage. So yeah, it should be quite interesting indeed, as Gal will now wheel his way back to the garage now then in the Alpha Tauri, as we have just under 7 minutes to go in this qualifying session to determine who will be on pole position for tomorrow's Belgian Grand Prix and determine the rest of the grid for tomorrow's race as well. As now the Alpha Tauri mechanics are just getting him prepared maybe for the second lap, as now out on track goes Evan Byrne. The Red Bull, he's not wasting any time whatsoever. He wants to find out where he lost that time in the middle sector, and he really can't afford his rival to be in front of him on the grid at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, that rival being Franco Lopez being in front of him. Of course, Lopez is 2nd, and so he's got to do everything he can to get ahead.
Yep, indeed, as now he makes his way towards Lecom. He's also got one of the Renaults behind him, that being Jesus Perinin, because Quag is still currently in the garage at the moment, as Byrne makes his way through Lecom, and then around the right-hander he will go, as he's preparing to start his lap very, very soon now then in the Red Bull Racing Honda, as now through the Bruxelles corner he goes, as now there's only 5 more cars needing to come out, that being Gal, Car, Patel, Quag and Galloway at the moment, as they go around the Jackie X corner. There goes Evan Byrne as he makes his way down towards Pouon. Strangely enough, though, we've only really seen one major mistake during qualifying, that being Patel, although it didn't result in any damage, thankfully for him. But it might still change in this final part of qualifying. The drivers could push each other too hard indeed, and they might end up making a huge mistake. This could be the final flying laps as well. We'll have to wait and see how much time there is left on the clock when everybody finishes off this flying lap really that they're about to start. As now coming around the double right-hander now, then we go. As I think the clouds, in fact, yeah, the rain is starting to come back now. I noticed that the clouds were starting to darken again around the racetrack as the rain is now starting to get back onto the track. But so far, it's not affecting the conditions on the racetrack because they have been treacherous since the start of the session. So that's pretty much that. As now Byrne makes his way in towards the final chicane on the racetrack as he'll now flick it to the right and left now. Then so through the right and into the left he will go, as Galloway now then is still in the pit lane at the moment. He's decided not to go out just yet, but I think he is now moving looking at the minimap. So yeah, Byrne luckily will not encounter him when he is on his flying lap. Galloway now out on the racetrack as now Byrne comes towards La Source now then, heading out of the first corner. He will go as he makes his way down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion. He will soon go now then as the spray continues to be kicked up the back of Evan Byrne's car there. Through Eau Rouge and then up towards Radion. He will go now then as he comes down the Kemmel Straight, as we will now see what his first sector time is going to look like compared to his personal best. Down the Kemmel Straight goes the Honda-powered Red Bull as he now approaches the end of the first sector, and he's 2 tenths up on his personal best, 82,000 off of Roke in that first sector there. Through Lecombe we go now then as he now goes around the right-hander now then on the racetrack before making his way down towards turns 8 and 9 on the racetrack. On the 4 minutes to go in this qualifying session to determine the grid for the Belgian Grand Prix here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, as now we will see if Byrne maybe or not potentially loses time in this middle sector or not. We'll have to wait and see as Byrne comes out of the Jackie X corner, making his way down towards the double left-hander of Pouon now then. So through the first part and then into the second part now then he will go, as he will now make his way towards turns 12 and 13 of Lavagna now then, as he now makes his way through the right-hander and then through into the left. He will go, as now coming out of the turn, making his way towards the double right-hander. He will go, and let's see what his middle sector looks like compared to his personal best now. Then he approaches the end of the second sector, 5 tenths off of Roke and over a second quicker than his personal best. But I don't think, unless he can find something in this last sector, I don't think he's going to be able to make it a Red Bull front row lockout and potentially a chance to jump Roke at the start. We'll have to wait and see, as Roke, speaking of which, getting held up by the Renault there of Jesus Perinen. So both of each other not really helping each other out on this lap, as now Evan Byrne makes his way into the last chicane on the racetrack, through into the right and then into the left-hander now then. We will go as Byrne makes his way onto the pit straight now then in the Red Bull, as he's now going to cross the line. Let's see what Byrne can achieve. He crosses the line and he goes into second place. In fact, he does find time in the last sector and gets himself onto the front row. So currently it's a Red Bull front row lockout again. We might be looking at a back-to-back weekend of Red Bull front row lockouts, but still plenty of drivers to do a lap. Perinen and Roke hold each other up and they don't improve on their lap as a result. We now look at David Kupok, who's down on his personal best, and he's currently 2.9 seconds off of George Roke, as he now makes his way onto the pit straight and across the line he goes. He's been way off the pace and he doesn't improve once again. It's a bit bizarre, we're not seeing improvements, as now Lopez also not up on his personal best. He's 9 tenths down on Roke in the middle sector, as now Lopez crosses the line and he stays in third position. Patel was up on his personal best, but it looks like the Mercedes of Carr has gotten his way there. They were both basically holding each other up and clearly not helping each other when it comes to improvements, especially Carr, who's down in 7th place, and that's not going to help him either. So it looks like Carr is going to have it all to do from 7th place at the moment, and it looks like Patel is also not going to be able to improve. They're both sharing row 4 at the moment, are Carr and Patel. They cross the line, no improvement for Patel, no improvement for Carr. Here comes Roman Quark. He's also down on his personal best, and he doesn't improve. He stays down in 9th position. What about the AlphaTauri behind? Gal, no improvement. He stays in 5th position, as Galloway is up on his personal best, but only by 1/10 in the first sector. We'll see what his middle sector is like compared to Roke, as he now makes his way into the right-hander, and let's see what his middle sector is like. And he is 1.5 seconds up, but 1.7 seconds down on Roke in that middle sector. So I'm finding it a little bit bizarre that people are losing time in that middle sector. It's not like there's a hard and soft compound of the extreme wets, because there isn't. There's only one compound of that tyre, but for some reason people seem to lose time in that middle sector. So Galloway now, they're making his way into the last chicane now then on the racetrack, as he now makes his way through into the right and left-hander now. Then we go, as Galloway now, they're making his way onto the pit straight, and Galloway now then is going to cross the line in the Ferrari. Can he improve? He's currently in 10th, and he goes into 5th position, gets in front of Miklos Gal and pushes Car down into 8th position. And I think that is qualifying done. He's got a yellow flag. In fact, it's Gal has crashed right at the end of the session. In fact, no, it's a mechanical failure, suspension failure for Miklos Gal right at the end of the session, but it's not going to matter anyway, because for the second race in a row, it is George Roque who takes pole position for tomorrow's Belgian Grand Prix, and for the second race in a row, it is also a Red Bull front row lockout here in Belgium. And once again, as I think my screen is frozen. Yes, it has. I had to flick it off a little bit there on Discord. But yeah, for the second race in a row, it's a Red Bull front row lockout.
Yeah, and great stuff from Rogue. They dominated qualifying throughout. Bird in second. I think he will be able to get the shot over Rogue going into turn 1, and we're going to take on board with Rogue's lap.
Yeah, indeed. So we're now going to see how George Roque took the pole position for tomorrow's Belgian Grand Prix here at Spa-Francorchamps. Enjoy. That is how George Roque took pole position for tomorrow's Belgian Grand Prix. A very good lap indeed. But will he be able to win tomorrow, of course? Let's not forget, turn 1 is known for the second place driver to take the lead into the first corner. But there's always a chance for the pole sitter to get the lead back when they get into Le Com. So who knows, really, if Roque can finally get that first victory of 2022 and the first Red Bull victory as well. But anyway, here is your top 10 then. George Roque, for the second race in a row, is on pole position, followed by teammate Evan Byrne, who makes it back-to-back front row lockouts for Red Bull in second. Then it is Franco Lopez, who starts in third, with Jesus Perrin in fourth, Jake Galloway fifth, Miklos Gal in sixth, Davey Kipok seventh, Armar Carr with it all to do in eighth, Rahul Patel in ninth, and Roman Quarg completing the top 10. So yeah, a bit of a weird Q3 in the end there,
Yeah, weird Q3 there. Not really much improvements in the final runs apart from Galloway's and Burns improvements. Of course, Carr and Patel got held up. Of course, Patel could have improved, but lost out because Carr was holding him up. So I think Carr and Patel could have improved their lap times. Yeah, that was a what if for Carr. And it's a big disappointment for Carl starting 8th, so of course he's got it all to do.
Yep, indeed, but of course the race is tomorrow, of course. Well, that has been it for the qualifying session here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. I hope you have enjoyed it. It's a very interesting session indeed in the wet conditions. Hopefully, Monza doesn't have a wet qualifying session either next week, but who knows really. But of course, we're not done with live streams just yet, because coming up in just over 40 minutes time, we of course have the Formula 2 race here at Spa-Francorchamps, so it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out as well. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it, so thank you all for watching. I've been JW97. He's been Ra, and we will see you tomorrow at 5 PM BST for the 44-lap Belgian Grand Prix. Till then, take care.
Bye.